So a tale as old as time within the Koei community space is they don't make Dynasty Warriors like they used to. And I feel like there is such an affinity and nostalgia for the PlayStation 2 era of Dynasty Warriors games. And I guess I just wanted to explore what made the PlayStation 2 era as special as it is. It goes without saying, it's the birth of the franchise. I know that Dynasty Warriors came out on the PlayStation 1, but that felt like it was a completely different type of game anyway, because it was basically like this 2D arcade fighter kind of thing, rather than what we know as a hack and slash game, or the Muso formula as we all know it to be. But as far as the PlayStation 2 era goes, it literally started off with a launch title with Dynasty Warriors 2, and then throughout the rest of the generation, we obviously got Dynasty Warriors 3, 4, and 5. We did technically get 6 Special towards the end there, but I mean, that was kind of like Koei going backwards rather than forward, so I'm not going to include that in this discussion. But basically, the main contenders, or the ones that I feel like people have that soft spot for specifically, is 3, 4, and 5. But not only that, they also expanded the series as well with the Extreme Legends expansions, as well as introducing spin-off titles like with Dynasty Warriors 4 Empires, and then of course 5 Empires. Now, depending on how this video series goes, I'm going to be looking at the PlayStation 3 and the PlayStation 4 in follow-up videos. And, if anyone's interested, or, if people resonate with the video like this, then I'll probably do one for the Samurai Warriors series as well. So I guess when it comes to the PlayStation 2 era, I think the first thing to look at is the fact that this is basically the first for so many things when it comes to the Dynasty Warriors series. So it's kind of hard to compare it to anything else when it is basically just the first of its kind. And the whole novelty of picking one fighter, dropping yourself onto this battlefield, and then just basically running around, causing havoc. It's the 1 versus 1,000 formula, as we all know and love it. And having this map and this battlefield, basically, these large open battlefields, and you can kind of just like roam around them relatively freely as well. We didn't know it at the time, but with later games, they really restrict where you can go just for the purposes of sticking to a narrative or a story or whatever. But with the PlayStation 2 era, at least, you can just roam freely for the most part, and it's great. A lot of newer titles, it's honestly a shame that that hasn't continued. It's almost like this thing that was done right, straight off the rip, was just kind of forgotten about or done away with. So that's a bit of a shame. But of course, if you are a long-term fan of the Dynasty Warriors series and you're watching this video, you would know that there is basically this ongoing discussion about like which era was best. Was it the classics because of the enemy AI and the new games are too easy now and all that stuff, and there's too many enemies on screen and all that? Well, I guess let's talk about the enemy AI. So, of course, I don't make games. I don't know anything about making games, but it is obvious, especially in Dynasty Warriors 3, the enemy AI is so fucking hard. In 3 and 4, started getting really easy in 5, and my assumption would be that the more enemies you put on the screen, Koei had to tune down the difficulty just so that way it wasn't just absolutely torturous to play these games. So that's obviously just a hunch, but I think people really miss that element of danger. And I think to a certain degree with, say, Origins on the PlayStation 5, so, it can handle having a metric fuck ton of enemy peons on the screen all at once. So it's like the enemy AI is just like, doesn't matter. It's almost like when you're playing through a newer game, you don't even think about the peons you're hacking your way through. It's just the enemy officers, which, to be fair, I feel like the enemy officers and how Origins handles that is pretty good. But everything, like every peon, just a lowly swordsman can fuck your shit up in one of the earlier games, specifically from 2 to 4. It's scary. And I also think to a certain degree, back then, it was really exciting when we got new characters, because from memory, Dynasty Warriors 2 started off with 28 playable characters, I think. Then it shot up to like 41 in Dynasty Warriors 3, and then it just slowly started building and building and building from there. And because we've had so many years with a lot of these characters, especially throughout that generation, let's just say from 2000 to 2005, that's 5 years. And throughout that period, We basically got 4 mainline entries. We got 1 Empires spin-off, 3 Extreme Legends expansions, or I guess you can say, technically 2, but so many releases throughout that period where we're spending time with a lot of these characters, which for the most part were introduced in Dynasty Warriors 3 at least. It really helps to build, I guess, I don't want to say that like a sense of nostalgia, but it's almost like this relationship or this identity or affinity with a lot of these characters. But say, for example, and I'm just going to speak for myself here, there's a lot of new characters that were introduced in, say, Dynasty Warriors 9, but because I personally haven't played a lot of Dynasty Warriors 9, I don't feel any sort of way about a lot of those newer characters. And Dynasty Warriors 9 came out, like 8 years ago, I think. And I barely know them. And it's just because there's so much time between entries, or even the fact that whenever there is a new entry, like especially the jump between, say, Dynasty Warriors 9 and Dynasty Warriors Origins, there's a lot of characters that just aren't there. Or even with Samurai Warriors 4 to Samurai Warriors 5, it's just, they just kind of do like this revamp. And I don't have any criticism about that necessarily, but I think it's just harder to feel attached to these characters. And of course, over time, we especially had a lot of cloned movesets throughout. I don't want to say newer titles because by this point, it's like anywhere between 10 and 20 years old, but let's just say from Dynasty Warriors 3, 4, and 5, everyone for the most part, maybe except for a few shared basic moves, had unique movesets, and the whole cloned moveset thing really wasn't that much of a conversation. Dynasty Warriors 2 was bad for that, but I do feel like that game was more like a tech demo more than anything else. I think another thing that was really special as well is that before YouTube, or maybe when YouTube just started, there was really like this early sense of community, especially with forums, when it came to rare item hunting, rare weapon hunting, and all that stuff. I remember for me, gosh, I'm gonna absolutely butcher this name. I'm gonna pop it on the screen if I fuck it up, but YouTubers that I would watch back in the day, like I want to say FF7 Pianist, and just content creators like that, and just the really early shit. It was just kind of exciting because it was just like, oh sweet, like, you know, watching all these guides and all that stuff, and Tiny Caterpillar uploading all of the cutscenes from, say, Dynasty Warriors 5 and interactions and small moments and stuff like that. It was just really cool being able to see stuff that I personally wouldn't have seen because I might not have had that certain game. Now, to talk about Dynasty Warriors 5 specifically for a moment, because I do feel like Dynasty Warriors 5 is considered to be basically the definitive version of Dynasty Warriors for the PlayStation 2 era. Even though the enemy AI was made easier, I really feel like Koei came into their own with the character designs, the feel, like there's like a real sense of fluidity with the combat despite it being on a PlayStation 2. It just felt really good. I mean, I felt like it was always fairly good and it started getting good with 4, but it really feels like they refined it in 5. That being said, I really fucking love Destiny mode. I mean, everyone loves Destiny mode in Dynasty Warriors 5 Extreme Legends. It's so fucking good. And it still baffles me that they haven't done anything. They've done things like it, but just not quite the same. It's just like, why not just do the same thing? You got it right like 20 years ago. Just do it again. Please, just do it again. But yeah, so we got Destiny mode, and that is probably some of the best Dynasty Warriors content of all time. Now, that being said, I guess to kind of summarize, so the actual gameplay itself. Now, a lot of people grew up with these games, and I think that that's a really big component as to why people feel a certain type of way. And also, maybe this is just an assumption here, but I feel like there is such an oversaturation with just so many titles and so many games coming out these days. And Koei Tecmo games or Muso games are starting to become fewer and far between. It almost felt like early Marvel MCU or something like that, how it's like, oh, we're going to release like 2 or 3 movies per year. And it kind of felt like that's what was happening with, you know, you get your core game, then you get your expansion, then you get this, then you get that. And it's just like, fuck. It's like a Bukkake of Warriors games. But that's just not the case anymore. I think because there's been so much backlash, games take much longer to make these days. I think it's harder for those games to stand out, especially when there's so many Steam games and like smaller games that come out basically every day that can potentially steal the spotlight. And as time has progressed, there are also certain opinions and reputation that has evolved and taken shape as well. And I think like an outsider might look at a series like this and think it's just like really over the top anime inspired combat that feels mindless and all that stuff. But it's almost like you had to be there when it was so limited and stripped back, I think, to really appreciate it. That being said, one element that I do think is quite timeless about these games is the music. The music is so fucking good, and it's always been good, even from the start, especially around like Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5. So good, so good. And it's crazy because it's just like the most over the top guitar riffs and rock, and it just feels like it's got nothing to do with the setting or aesthetic, but at the same time it just fits perfectly. It's just this weird marriage of two different things, and I just love it. It's just, whoever came up with that is a genius. And there's been changes throughout the story throughout this period as well. So obviously, you've got Dynasty Warriors 2, 3, and 5, how they have the individual person's story modes, which I personally really like. And then you've got with 4, how they kind of went like a kingdom faction, but, made it a little bit more in depth, where if you didn't do certain things on certain missions, you might not unlock certain stages. So there's always at least been a bit of variety. Another thing that I think was really important for this era too is couch co-op. Feels like it's a thing that's really gone away, and it's really nice to see that the Dynasty Warriors 3 remaster is bringing that back. But yeah, needless to say, people miss it, and it's because I think a lot of us as children, or just as younger people back then, I suppose, it was a really massive way of how we experience these games, is playing them with a buddy, with a family member, or whoever. Like, it's just real fun. Now, this era wasn't perfect though. Like I said before, I'd say that Dynasty Warriors 2 definitely felt like a tech demo, but also at the same time it was very revolutionary, I think, or ahead of its time. So it's got a pretty sharp trade-off there. And I think that proposition value definitely balanced out more, especially from like 3 onwards. But they also felt very repetitive. I mean, I think that's that could be a criticism or a complaint about the whole series, is that a lot of it does feel like rinse and repeat. However, with such quick turnaround and quick succession of each game, you kind of can't be blamed for thinking like, oh, fuck, it's starting to feel a bit samey here. Something that a lot of the newer games have really focused on is the actual storytelling delivery and methods themselves, whereas in these games, it kind of just felt like it's like, oh, okay, well, we're basically going to tweak and improve maybe the visuals, maybe the actual gameplay itself. We're going to add a few new people to the roster, and then we're going to kind of focus on sharing their perspective from a lot of these battles that we've already seen, or we might add in a few extra battles here or there. So there is a bit of a difference there, I think. Also, the story was extremely loose with history. I mean, fuck, I'm not a history guy myself, but supposedly when it comes to, especially like Dynasty Warriors 3, I mean, Dynasty Warriors 2, fuck, you're playing the Battle of Yiling and Guan Yu is still there. So there are a lot of inaccuracies, and I mean, fuck, like the pronunciations, and I can't believe I haven't even said it, but the voice acting is so fucking horrible for most of these games from this era, but it's almost like a term of endearment in a weird way. We can look back at it now and be like, those are the good days. I would say that if you're someone who's really into the historical accuracies and all that stuff, or is more of a history buff, I definitely don't think this era would be up your alley as much, perhaps, or maybe because we can just look at these games for what they are. They're just fun hack and slash games. Maybe you can leave the expectations at the door and accept the fact that Cao Cao is going to be called Cao Cao. But I just think that maybe some of the newer titles, supposedly, again, haven't played a shitload of Dynasty Warriors 9, which I really need to, honestly. I really need to get around to it, but I'm just kind of dreading it. But when it comes to Dynasty Warriors 9, supposedly, it tries incredibly hard to be as faithful as possible to history. And I would also say that in the earlier games, because it's earlier hardware, weaker hardware, the earlier Dynasty Warriors games would suffer from a lot of frame rate dips and chugging along, just to handle all the enemies or people just on screen all at once. And that definitely became much less of an issue, especially with the PS3 and 360 era. But I guess it's just something to know. I mean, it's kind of to be expected. These games have never been truly gorgeous. I mean, I think that you know, Samurai Warriors 4, Dynasty Warriors Origins, like a lot of those games, like they look really good, but I don't think that the visuals have necessarily been as much of the focus as much as the execution and delivery of the gameplay. But all in all, I think what made the PlayStation 2 era of Dynasty Warriors games so special, I think we were given something new with Dynasty Warriors 2, and Koei just wasted no time with just being like, oh, you guys like that? Fucking here you go, here's 3. Oh, here's 3 Extreme Legends, here's 4, and so on and so forth. And each game legitimately just kept getting better and better and better, in my opinion. Some people might think that Dynasty Warriors 5 started slipping, especially with the difficulty. I beg to differ. I think that it felt like the most refined version of Dynasty Warriors, or the Dynasty Warriors experience you could have on the PlayStation 2. We also were treated to Destiny mode on the PlayStation 2, which was incredible. We're also given Extreme Legends expansions and Empires spin-offs for the first time as well. Like, a lot of firsts happened here. And I think it was just such a formative period of our lives. It's kind of like how people feel incredibly nostalgic for, say, Mortal Kombat on like actual arcade machines. Sure, there's like still arcade machines that are being made now, but it's like the medium has changed or the landscape has evolved. So people who were there for that period, say, I'm assuming late 80s, 90s or whatever, they would have such an affinity for that wouldn't be replicated. You can have arcade games released on consoles, but it's still just not the same thing. Like, newcomers won't feel that type of way about those games. And I mean, it's like anything. Series need to evolve, and I think that for the most part, Koei's done a job. No, I think that they've done a good job for the most part with bringing the Dynasty Warriors, Samurai Warriors series into the current generation when they do. However, this was just a certain period of time that you just had to be there. And I think that's what makes it so special. The online community around it, the excitement of all these new characters and all that stuff. And I think that's why a lot of people keep referring back to this era with such fervor and such passion. And it's almost like they want to just recapture that feeling again. The sad thing is, I'm just not quite sure that you can. And what's that saying? It's like, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, or whatever the fuck. So I am definitely appreciative that I was there during that period. And hey, I mean, there's probably some newcomers that have stumbled across Dynasty Warriors Origins and feel that same type of way about that game. Because if you think about it, especially on the PlayStation 5 era, I don't really feel like there's really been any new titles quite like Dynasty Warriors Origins released within this generation. And even though, you know, we've got like 20, 25 years worth of releases of this genre, this might be a first time for some people. And I think that in and of itself is exciting. And hopefully we just get more games. So yeah, that's why I think the PlayStation 2 era was very special for the Dynasty Warriors series. If you like this video, you know what to do. If you'd like to see content like this early on the channel, we usually upload these videos 1 week early for channel members. We also have bonus channel member content for channel members. And if you'd like to see more of me, I'll also leave a link to my other channel in the description below. But yeah, until then, thanks for watching this video.